Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim straightened his tie for the third time that morning. He stood outside the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber, watching alien delegates file past him. Some nodded politely, others ignored him completely. A few made sounds that might have been laughter in their languages. He had been Earth's representative for 3 years now. 3 long years of sitting in council meetings, filing complaints, and watching his people die while he smiled and spoke in calm, measured words. Today would be no different. Another colony had been attacked, another formal protest to file, another day of pretending that humanity was weak. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Hyun-woo walked into the chamber, his polished shoes clicking on the crystal floor. The room was enormous, designed to hold representatives from dozens of different species. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others required special atmosphere suits or environmental chambers. His seat was in the back, in the section reserved for developing civilizations. It was a polite way of saying species that don't matter much. Hyunwoo settled into his chair and opened his data pad. The agenda was typical. Trade disputes, border negotiations, resource allocation. His item was listed last, as always. Counselor. Zethos slithered to the central speaking platform. The Vextar was impressive even by alien standards, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark green scales that seemed to absorb light. His yellow eyes swept across the chamber with the confidence of a predator who had never known defeat. "We begin today's session," Zethos announced, his voice carrying easily through the chamber's translation system. First item, the ongoing territorial dispute between the Hive Collective and the Crystal Union. Hyunwoo listened with half his attention while reviewing his notes. The attack on New Sejong Colony had happened 4 days ago. 37 dead, including children. The Vextar raiders had struck fast and hard, destroying the main settlement before human defense forces could respond. By the time Captain Bo-Ra Lee arrived with her patrol ship, the attackers were gone. It was the same pattern every time. Quick strikes against lightly defended targets. Always civilian colonies or merchant ships. Never military installations where humanity might show its true strength. The aliens were testing them, probing for weaknesses. Hyunwoo's comm device buzzed softly. A message from Earth. He opened it discreetly, keeping his expression neutral as he read. Another attack, this time on a mining station in the Outer Rim. No survivors. The morning dragged on. Trade agreements were signed. Boundaries were redrawn. The representatives of major powers spoke with authority while smaller civilizations listened quietly. Hyunwoo waited his turn, as he always did. Finally, Zethos called his name. The human delegation requests time to address recent incidents in their territorial space. Hyunwoo stood and walked to the speaking platform. He could feel dozens of alien eyes on him, some curious, others dismissive. A few seemed almost amused. He activated his datapad and began to speak. "Honored counselors," he said, his voice steady and professional. "I must once again bring to your attention the ongoing attacks against human civilian targets. In the past week alone, we have lost 2 colonies and a mining station. The death toll now exceeds 300 innocent people." A ripple of sound went through the chamber. Not shock or outrage, but something that sounded more like boredom. Hyunwoo had expected this. He continued. "These attacks appear to be coordinated strikes by Vextar forces against undefended civilian targets. I formally request that the Council investigate these incidents and take appropriate action." Zethos rose from his seat, his massive form casting a shadow across the chamber. "The human representative makes serious accusations," he said, his tone suggesting anything but seriousness. "However, the Vextar Empire operates only in lawful territorial space. If human colonies are being attacked, perhaps humans should consider better defensive measures." Several delegates made sounds that the translation system rendered as laughter. Hyunwoo maintained his smile. He had learned long ago that showing anger or frustration only encouraged them. "I have provided detailed evidence of these attacks," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "Sensor logs, witness testimony, and debris analysis all confirm Vextar involvement. I request that the Council review this evidence and take action." Another counselor spoke up. This one was from the Hive Collective, an insect-like creature whose name was an unpronounceable series of clicks and buzzes. The translation system called her Designation Apex 7. The collective has observed human territorial claims, she said, her words accompanied by rapid clicking sounds. Human expansion often occurs in contested space. Perhaps these incidents are simply the natural result of poor planning. More laughter. Hyunwoo nodded politely and returned to his seat. His formal complaint would be filed and forgotten, just like all the others. The chamber moved on to other business. After the session ended, Hyunwoo walked through the station's corridors toward his office. The Galactic Council Station was a marvel of engineering, a massive structure that served as neutral ground for dozens of species. Gardens from different worlds created pockets of alien beauty. Art from across the galaxy decorated the walls. He passed a group of Vextar military officers. They wore the dark armor of their warrior caste, weapons openly displayed as symbols of their power. One of them noticed Hyunwoo and said something to his companions. They all turned to look at the human ambassador, their yellow eyes glittering with amusement. Hyunwoo nodded politely and continued walking. He had learned to recognize the look. It was the same expression a cat might wear while watching a mouse. They saw him as weak, defenseless, something to be toyed with. If only they knew. His office was small but comfortable, with a view of the station's main docking bay. Hyunwoo could see ships from dozens of worlds coming and going. Massive Vextar battlecruisers, sleek Hive Collective swarm ships, the crystalline vessels of the eternal hierarchy. And there, docked at the far end of the bay, was the Soul's Pride. Captain Bo-Ra Lee's ship looked tiny compared to the alien vessels around it. A simple patrol frigate, lightly armed and built for speed rather than heavy combat. To any observer, it would seem like a perfect example of human military weakness. Hyunwoo activated his secure communication system and waited for the connection to establish. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to Admiral Taeho Park, currently stationed at Luna Base. The Admiral looked tired, as he always did these days. "How did the council session go?" Taeho asked. "The same as always," Hyunwoo replied. "They filed my complaint and moved on." Sethos practically admitted responsibility while denying involvement. "And the other delegates?" "They think we're weak. They think we can't defend ourselves. They're getting bolder with each attack." Taeho was quiet for a moment. In the background, Hyunwoo could see the familiar walls of the Luna Base command center. How many times had they had this conversation? How many attacks had they endured while maintaining the careful fiction of human weakness? "The president is getting pressure to respond more forcefully," Taeho said finally. "The families of the victims want action. The media is asking why we don't strike back." "We stick to the plan," Hyunwoo said firmly. "Every attack teaches us more about their capabilities. Every victory makes them more confident, more careless." "I know the plan," Taeho replied, his voice heavy with the weight of command. "But sitting here watching our people die while pretending to be helpless, it's harder than I expected." Hyunwoo understood. They all understood. The hardest part wasn't the alien attacks or the diplomatic humiliation. It was maintaining the act, while people suffered. But the plan required patience, it required sacrifice. "How are preparations proceeding?" Hyunwoo asked. "On schedule. Dr. Mi Young-han reports that the final weapon systems will be ready within the month. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Lim confirms that all deep space assets remain undetected. We're ready, whenever the president gives the order." "Good. Make sure nothing changes on the surface. Keep sending our defensive ships on their regular patrols. Keep filing the casualty reports. Keep looking weak." After ending the call, Hyunwoo turned back to the window. The Soul's Pride was preparing to depart, probably heading back to patrol the rim worlds where the attacks were happening. Captain Bo-Ra Lee was a good officer. She followed orders even when those orders meant accepting defeat. Like all human military personnel, she believed she was doing her best with limited resources. She didn't know about the massive fleet hidden in the dark space beyond Pluto. She didn't know about the weapon systems that made her ship's armament look like toys. She didn't know that every defeat she suffered was carefully calculated to maintain the illusion of human weakness. Only a handful of people knew the truth. The president, a few key military leaders, and the diplomatic corps. Everyone else played their part without knowing they were acting in a much larger drama. Yunwoo's comm device buzzed again. Another message from Earth, this one marked with the highest security clearance. He opened it and read quickly. The Vextar were planning something bigger. Intelligence suggested a major operation against one of the core human colonies. He forwarded the message to the appropriate channels and made a note in his personal log. The attacks were escalating just as they had predicted. Soon the aliens were. Captain Bora Lee stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The colony ship New Busan was gone. 50,000 people, vaporized in an instant by Vextar plasma cannons. Her patrol ship had arrived just minutes too late to do anything but watch the wreckage burn. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a distress signal from mining station Taebake. Multiple Vextar raiders approaching their position." Bora closed her eyes for a moment. Another attack. Another chance to arrive. Too late. Another chance to watch her people die while she pretended her ship was less capable than it really was. "Set course for Taebake," she ordered. "Maximum speed." The Soul's Pride turned toward the mining station, its engines straining to reach the battle in time. Bora knew they wouldn't make it. The orders from Earth were always the same. Respond quickly, fight bravely, but don't reveal the ship's true capabilities. Let the enemy think they were winning. But 50,000 people, 50,000 civilians who had done nothing wrong except try to build a new life among the stars. Bora's hands clenched into fists as she watched the tactical display count down, the distance to their next failure. On Earth, President Soo-Jin Choi sat in the Situation Room deep beneath the Capitol. The walls were lined with screens showing tactical information from across human space. Each red dot represented an attack. Each flashing symbol meant people were dying. "Mining Station Taebake is under attack," reported Defense Minister Dong Hyun. "You." "Commander Jaemin Song is leading the evacuation, but the Vextar have overwhelming numbers." Soo-Jin watched the tactical display update in real time. The commander was doing his best with the resources available, but available was a carefully maintained fiction. Hidden in the asteroid belt around Taebake were 3 stealth frigates, each capable of destroying the entire Vextar raiding party. But they couldn't reveal themselves. Not yet. "How many can Song evacuate?" she asked. "Maybe half." "The transport. Ships are loaded to capacity, but there's not enough time." Another red dot appeared on the display. Another attack beginning somewhere else in human space. Soo-Jin had been watching these dots multiply for 3 years, each one representing deaths that could have been prevented. The weight of command had never felt heavier. "Madam President," a new voice said. Dr. Mi-Young-han entered the situation room, her arms full of data tablets. "I need to speak with you urgently." Soo-Jin followed the scientist to a secure briefing room. Dr. Han was responsible for humanity's most classified military projects. If she was here instead of in her laboratory, something important was happening. "The weapon systems are ready," Dr. Han said without ceremony. "All of them. The orbital platforms, the deep space fleet, the planetary defense grids. We can begin operations immediately." Soo-Jin sat down heavily. The moment she had been dreading and anticipating for years was finally here. The choice between continuing the charade and revealing humanity's true strength. "What about the timeline?" she asked. "We're ahead of schedule. The aliens have been so focused on what they think are our weaknesses that they've ignored our actual preparations. Every attack has given us more intelligence about their capabilities. We know their fleet positions, their command structures, their tactical doctrines." Dr. Han activated a holographic display that filled the room with tactical information. Star charts showed the positions of alien fleets. Intelligence reports detailed their command hierarchies. Weapon specifications revealed the capabilities of their most advanced ships. "They think they know us," Dr. Han continued. "They've been fighting what they believe is our best effort. They have no idea what our actual military looks like." At mining station Taebake, Commander Jaemin Song watched the last transport ship disappear into hyperspace. Half the population was safe. The other half was still trapped in the mining complex as Vextar raiders closed in. Sir, his communications officer reported. The Soul's Pride is 30 minutes out. They're coming as fast as they can. Jamin nodded grimly. 30 minutes might as well be 30 hours. The Vextar would overrun the station long before help arrived. He looked at his tactical display, counting the enemy ships. 12 raiders against his 2 patrol boats and a handful of civilian security vessels. If he used his real weapons, he could destroy the entire raiding party in minutes. The mining station had defensive systems that the aliens had never seen. His patrol boats carried missiles that could crack a battleship. But his orders were clear. Maintain the illusion of weakness. All remaining personnel fall back to the evacuation points, he commanded. We'll hold them as long as we can. The first Vextar ship broke through the outer perimeter. Jamin watched it happen, knowing he had the power to stop it but couldn't. Use it. The hardest part of this war wasn't fighting the enemy. It was pretending to lose. Back on Earth, President Sujin Choi convened an emergency meeting of the Security Council. The small room contained only 6 people, the only humans who knew the full scope of their military preparations. Defense Minister Dong-Hyun Yu, Admiral Tae-ho Park, Dr. Mi-young Han, Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo Lim attending by secure video link, Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim appearing from the Galactic Council station, and herself. The situation has escalated beyond our original parameters, Sujin began. The attacks are becoming more frequent and more brutal. Public pressure for military action is growing. How much longer can we maintain the current strategy? Admiral Tae-ho Park spoke first. Our forces are ready for immediate deployment. 3 years of careful preparation have given us advantages the enemy can't imagine. But every day we wait costs more lives. The diplomatic situation is also reaching a critical point, Ambassador Hyun-woo added from his remote location. The aliens are becoming bolder in their attacks and more dismissive in their diplomatic responses. I believe they're planning something much larger than what we've seen so far. Dr. Mi-young Han activated another display, this one showing intelligence, gathered from the recent attacks. Analysis of enemy tactics suggests they're testing our response capabilities. Each attack has been slightly more aggressive than the last. They're building up to something major. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo Lim's face appeared on the main screen, from his hidden command post beyond Pluto. The Deep Space Fleet is fully operational. 847 ships ready for immediate deployment. We've been monitoring alien communications and fleet movements for months. When we move, we can hit them simultaneously across multiple systems. Sujin looked around the room at the faces of her closest advisors. These people had helped her maintain the most complex deception in human history. For 3 years, they had allowed the galaxy to believe that humanity was weak, defenseless, barely able to protect its own colonies. The truth was very different. Give me options, she said. Defense Minister Dong-Hyun Yu opened a classified folder. We have 3 potential response levels. Option 1, continue current strategy. Keep taking losses while gathering intelligence. Minimal risk of exposure, but maximum cost in lives. Option 2, Admiral Park continued. Limited military response. Deploy some of our hidden assets to defend key targets. This would improve our defensive capabilities, but might reveal that we're stronger than we appear. Dr. Han concluded the briefing. Option 3, full revelation. Operation Nemesis. Complete deployment of all military assets with full tactical capabilities. This would end the attacks immediately, but would also reveal to the galaxy that we've been deceiving them for years. Sujin was quiet for a long moment, weighing the options. Through the secure communication link, she could hear the sounds of battle from mining station Taebaek. Commander Song was still fighting, still pretending his forces were weaker than they really were. What are the estimated casualties for each option? She asked. Option 1 could cost us hundreds of thousands more lives over the next year, Admiral Park replied. Option 2 might reduce that by half. Option 3 would end the killing immediately but could have unpredictable political consequences. The president stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of the capital city. Millions of people going about their daily lives, most of them unaware that their civilization was fighting a secret war among the stars. Her communication device chimed with an urgent message. She read it quickly, her expression growing grim. "What is it?" Defense Minister Yu asked. "Captain Wan-Sik Jiang of the merchant vessel Daegu Runner. His ship is under attack. He's requesting immediate assistance." They all watched the tactical display as another red dot appeared. The merchant ship was deep in space, far from any military patrol routes. There was no chance of rescue. Su-jin opened a communication channel to the ship. Captain Jiang's face appeared on the screen, smoke and sparks visible behind him. The man was clearly trying to maintain his composure as his ship died around him. "Captain," Su-jin said, "we're monitoring your situation. Help is coming." But they both knew it was a lie. Help wasn't coming because help couldn't come without revealing their true capabilities. Jiang would die maintaining the fiction of human weakness, just like thousands of others. The captain seemed to understand. He looked directly into the camera, his expression sad but determined. "Madam President," he said quietly, "tell them we tried to be nice." The transmission cut to static. Su-jin stared at the empty screen for several seconds. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked into the Galactic Council chamber with the same calm expression he had worn for 3 years. But today was different. Today, he carried a message that would change everything. The chamber buzzed with the usual diplomatic chatter. Trade negotiations, territory disputes, the mundane business of galactic civilization. Councillor Zethos lounged in his seat, yellow eyes gleaming with the confidence of a predator who had never met anything stronger than himself. Hyunwoo took his place in the back section reserved for developing civilizations. He opened his datapad and reviewed his notes one final time. The message was simple, direct, and absolutely final. "The human delegation requests emergency session time," he announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Several delegates turned to look at him. A few made the sounds that their species used for amusement. Another formal complaint, they probably thought. Another pointless protest from the weak humans. Zethos gestured lazily toward the speaking platform. "The human representative may proceed, though I hope this will be brief. We have important matters to discuss today." Hyunwoo stood and walked to the central platform. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him, most filled with the same dismissive contempt he had endured for years. They saw him as harmless, irrelevant, barely worth their attention. He activated the chamber's main display system and began to speak. "Honored councillors," he said, his voice steady and professional. "For 3 years, I have stood in this chamber, requesting justice for attacks against human civilians. For 3 years, my requests have been ignored or dismissed." The chamber was quiet now, though Hyunwoo could sense the impatience of the delegates. They had heard this speech before. Yesterday, the merchant vessel Daegu Runner was destroyed, with all hands. Before he died, Captain Wan-Sik Jiang sent a final message. He said, "Tell them we tried to be nice." Hyunwoo paused, letting the words sink in. Then he activated a secure communication channel that connected directly to Earth. "I am authorized by the government of Earth to deliver humanity's final diplomatic statement regarding these attacks." On screens around the chamber, the official seal of Earth appeared. President Su-jin Choi's voice filled the room, transmitted from the secure command center beneath the capital. "To the Galactic Council and all member civilizations," the president's voice said. "For 3 years, humanity has attempted to resolve the ongoing attacks against our people through diplomatic means. We have filed formal complaints. We have requested investigations. We have offered to negotiate peaceful solutions." The chamber was completely silent now. This was unprecedented. No developing civilization had ever made such a direct address to the full council. "These diplomatic efforts have failed," the president continued. "The attacks against human civilians continue to escalate. The loss of life has become unacceptable. Therefore, Earth hereby issues this final warning to all parties responsible for attacks against human targets." Hyunwoo watched the faces around the chamber. Confusion was beginning to replace dismissive amusement. Something in the president's tone suggested this was not another empty protest. "Stop attacking or we stop pretending to be polite." The words, echoed through the chamber like a physical blow. For a moment, no one moved. Then Counselor Zethos began to laugh. The sound was harsh and predatory, filled with contempt. "Pretending?" Zethos said, rising to his full imposing height. "What exactly have humans been pretending? That they can defend themselves? That they pose any threat to real military powers?" Other delegates joined in the laughter. The insect-like representative of the Hive Collective made rapid clicking sounds that the translation system rendered as amusement. Hyun-woo smiled politely and consulted his datapad. "The warning expires in exactly 24 hours, he said, calmly. "After that time, humanity will respond to attacks with our actual military capabilities rather than the limited defensive measures we have used so far." "Actual capabilities?" Zethos laughed louder. "We have seen your capabilities, human. Your patrol ships flee from our raiders. Your colonies fall without significant resistance. What actual capabilities could you possibly possess?" Hyun-woo closed his datapad and looked directly at the Vextar counselor. His diplomatic smile never wavered. "You'll find out," he said simply. 26 hours later, the galaxy began to understand what he meant. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Lim stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Inchin's Wrath, watching the tactical display update with incoming sensor data. Around him, the largest military fleet in human history was dropping out of stealth mode for the first time. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "all ships are reporting ready status. 847 vessels standing by for your orders." Kyung-Soo nodded grimly. For 3 years, this fleet had remained hidden in the dark space beyond Pluto, waiting for this moment. Each ship represented technology that the galaxy had never seen from humanity. Weapons that made their defensive patrol ships look like toys. "Signal all commands," he ordered. "Operation Nemesis is now active. All forces begin simultaneous deployment." Across human space, the deception that had lasted 3 years came to an end in a matter of minutes. Captain Haiwan Jung felt her stealth destroyer Ghost of Gwangju shudder as its cloaking systems deactivated. Around her ship, the emptiness of Vextar space suddenly revealed itself to be not so empty after all. Dozens of human vessels appeared on sensors, ships that had been lurking undetected for months. "Captain," her sensor officer called out. Excitement, clear in his voice. "I'm reading the entire Vextar Third Fleet directly ahead. They have no idea we're here." Haiwan smiled coldly. The Third Fleet was the same force that had destroyed the colony ship New Busan. Time for some payback. "All ships," she transmitted to her hidden squadron. "Target the flagship. Let's see how they like being surprised." On Earth, Dr. Mi Young-han stood in the command center of the orbital defense grid. Around the planet, what the galaxy believed were simple communication satellites were revealing their true nature. Each platform contained enough firepower to level a continent. "Dr. Han," her technical supervisor reported, "we're detecting Hive Collective scout ships approaching the outer system. They appear to be investigating unusual energy readings." Mi Young activated the main tactical display. The insect ships were small and fast, probably sent to gather intelligence about Earth's defenses. They were about to get more information than they bargained for. "Activate platforms 7 through 12, she ordered. "Let's give them a proper welcome." High above Earth's atmosphere, 6 communication satellites suddenly began to unfold. Solar panels retracted to reveal weapon systems that defied everything. The galaxy thought it knew about human technology. Energy readings spiked as exotic matter reactors came online. The Hive scout ships detected the energy surge and began to turn away, but it was far too late. Beams of coherent plasma reached across thousands of kilometers of space, striking the alien vessels with pinpoint accuracy. The ships didn't just explode, they simply ceased to exist, vaporized by weapons that shouldn't have been possible for a developing civilization to possess. In the asteroid belt around mining station Taebaek, Commander Jae-min Song finally received the orders he had been waiting 3 years to hear. "All units, this is Earth Command," the transmission began. "You are authorized to deploy full tactical capabilities. Repeat, you are authorized to use real weapons." Jae-min felt a savage satisfaction as he activated his ship's actual combat systems. Around him, 3 other vessels dropped their stealth fields and powered-up weapons that the aliens had never seen. The Vextar raiding party that had been terrorizing the mining station was about to learn what human military technology really looked like. "Target the enemy flagship," he ordered. "Full power to the plasma cannon array." The lead Vextar ship, a massive battle cruiser that had seemed invincible just moments before, disappeared in a flash of superheated gas. The remaining raiders turned to flee, but human ships were already moving to intercept them. Ships that had seemed slow and weak suddenly revealed speed and firepower that made them more dangerous than anything in the Vextar fleet. Back at the Galactic Council station, emergency alerts were flooding in from across known space. Alien military commands were reporting massive human fleets appearing without warning. Ships that shouldn't exist were destroying forces that had seemed unbeatable just hours before. Counselor Zethos burst into the council chamber, his usual composure replaced by something approaching panic. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Our third fleet has gone silent. Our border stations are reporting human warships of impossible size." Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim sat calmly in his usual seat, reading reports on his datapad. He looked up at the agitated Vextar counselor with the same polite expression he had always worn. "I told you," he said simply. "You would find out." The main chamber display activated, showing tactical information from across the galaxy. Red symbols marked the positions of human military assets. There were hundreds of them, appearing in star systems where aliens had believed no human ships existed. "This is impossible," the Hive Collective representative clicked frantically. "Our intelligence reports show limited human military capabilities, small patrol ships, minimal defensive installations." "Your intelligence." Admiral Ji-hoon Bae watched the Vextar homeworld grow larger on his tactical display. The massive planet hung in space like a green jewel, covered in the sprawling cities of a civilization that had dominated this region of the galaxy for centuries. Soon those cities would learn what it meant to face humanity's true military might. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender broadcasts from 17 different Vextar fleet elements. They're requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations." Ji-hoon's expression remained cold. "Signal all human forces. Continue the advance. No negotiations until we receive unconditional surrender from their planetary government." Around him, Task Force Hammer moved through Vextar space like an unstoppable wave. 67 human warships, each one more advanced than anything the aliens had ever encountered. The Vextar fleets that had seemed so powerful when attacking human colonies were scattering like frightened animals. Behind the main fleet, Admiral Tae-ho Park coordinated the liberation of human territories. Every colony that had been attacked, every mining station that had been raided, every ship that had been destroyed, all of it was being answered with precision strikes that left alien military forces in ruins. "Target the orbital defense platforms around the 4th planet," Ji-hoon ordered. "I want them gone before we move into close orbit." The Vextar had built their defenses to stop the kind of limited human forces they had been fighting for 3 years. Patrol ships with light weapons, small defensive installations, the kind of military assets that could be overwhelmed by superior numbers and firepower. They had never planned to face a human dreadnought. The Incheon's Wrath opened fire. With its main battery, beams of coherent energy reached across space to strike the alien defense platforms. The structures that had protected the Vextar homeworld for generations simply vaporized under the assault. On the surface below, Counselor Zethos stood in the Emergency Command Center, watching his civilization's military forces collapse in real time. The screens around him showed nothing but disaster. Human ships appearing everywhere, destroying everything they encountered with weapons that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. "Sir," one of his tactical officers reported, voice shaking with fear. "The human fleet is requesting direct communication with planetary leadership." Zethos straightened his scaled shoulders, trying to summon the dignity he had always worn so easily. "Put them through." Admiral Ji-hoon Bae's face appeared on the main screen. The human looked calm, professional, almost bored, like this was just another routine military operation. "Counselor Zethos," the admiral said politely. "I believe we've met before, though not under these circumstances. I am Admiral Jihoon Bey of the Earth Defense Forces. I'm here to discuss the terms of your surrender." "Surrender?" Zethos tried to inject his old arrogance into the word, but it came out more like a question. "Your military forces have been neutralized," Admiral Bey continued in the same professional tone. "Your fleet assets are destroyed or scattered. Your orbital defenses no longer exist. Your ground-based installations are currently being targeted by ships you cannot detect. I'm offering you the opportunity to surrender peacefully and avoid further destruction." Around the command center, Vextar officers stared at the screens showing their defeated fleets. 3 years of easy victories against human targets had ended in a matter of hours once humanity revealed its true capabilities. "How?" Zethos whispered. "How is this possible?" Admiral Bey's expression didn't change. "You spent 3 years fighting our security forces and thought you were fighting our military. You attacked our outer colonies and thought you understood our defensive capabilities. You destroyed our merchant ships and thought you had measured our strength." The admiral gestured, and the display showed tactical information that made Zethos's blood run cold. Human fleets throughout the galaxy all revealing themselves simultaneously, weapons platforms that had been disguised as civilian infrastructure, military installations that had been hidden in plain sight. "Every attack you made taught us more about your capabilities," Admiral Bey continued. "Every victory you celebrated gave us better intelligence about your weaknesses. You were so confident in your superiority that you never considered the possibility that we were letting you win." In another part of the galaxy, Rear Admiral In-Soo Ko was conducting similar operations against the Hive Collective. The insect civilization had spread across dozens of worlds, creating a network of colonies connected by their shared hive mind consciousness. That consciousness was currently experiencing something approaching panic. "Designation Alpha 1, In-Soo said, addressing the primary hive representative through a captured communication relay. "I am Rear Admiral In-Soo Ko of the Earth Defense Forces. Your military assets in 17 systems have been neutralized. Your remaining forces are completely surrounded." The response came as a series of rapid clicks and buzzes, translated by the communication system into barely coherent speech. This outcome was not calculated. Human military strength was assessed as minimal. Current reality does not match previous data. Your assessment was based on incomplete information, In-Soo replied calmly. You observed our defensive responses and assumed they represented our maximum capabilities. You were mistaken. On the surface of one of the hive worlds, Colonel Yan He Na led her Marine Expeditionary Force through the alien city. The Marines wore powered armor that made them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons, carrying rifles that could punch through tank armor. The hive warriors they encountered had never faced anything like them. These weren't the lightly armed security forces that had defended human colonies. These were professional soldiers equipped with military-grade technology, advancing with the precision of a force that had trained for this exact scenario. "Ma'am," one of her squad leaders reported, "the civilian population centers are secured. No resistance from non-military targets." Yan He nodded, studying the tactical display on her helmet's heads-up system. The operation was proceeding exactly as planned. Every hive military installation identified, every warrior caste element neutralized, every strategic target secured. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "Secure the government complexes and prepare for occupation duty." The Marines moved deeper into the alien city with mechanical efficiency. 3 years of watching human forces struggle against superior numbers had given the Hive Collective confidence that they understood human military capabilities. They had never imagined facing soldiers like these. Back at the Galactic Council Station, emergency sessions were being called by every major civilization. The crystalline representatives of the eternal hierarchy were requesting immediate conferences with human leadership. The energy beings known as the Void Shepherds had gone completely silent, their usual diplomatic communications cutting off entirely. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim found himself in a very different position than he had occupied just days before. Instead, of sitting in the back section reserved for developing civilizations, he had been moved to the primary diplomatic table. Instead of filing ignored complaints, he was receiving requests for immediate negotiations. "Ambassador," the crystalline delegate chimed, its voice like musical notes. "The eternal hierarchy wishes to express its concern about the current military actions. Perhaps a negotiated settlement could be reached?" Hyun-woo consulted his data pad, reviewing the latest tactical reports. Human forces were systematically dismantling alien military capabilities across the galaxy, not destroying them entirely, but removing their ability to threaten human civilians. "I appreciate the hierarchy's concern," he replied diplomatically. "However, humanity's current military operations are simply responses to 3 years of unprovoked attacks against our civilian populations. We're not seeking to conquer or destroy. We're removing the ability of hostile forces to continue their aggression." The Void Shepherd representative finally spoke, its words appearing as text on the translation system since energy beings had no vocal cords. "The Shepherds request clarification of human military objectives. Current force deployment suggests capabilities far beyond previous assessments." "Our objectives are simple," Hyun-woo said. "End the attacks against human civilians. Establish clear deterrence against future aggression. Ensure that this kind of systematic targeting of our people never happens again." He activated the chamber's main display, showing real-time footage from the military operations. Human ships moving through alien space with overwhelming superiority. Marines securing alien worlds with minimal resistance. Orbital defense platforms that had protected alien homeworlds for centuries being swept aside like debris. "For 3 years, you allowed certain civilizations to attack our people while ignoring our diplomatic protests," Hyun-woo continued. "You dismissed our request for protection and treated our casualties as acceptable losses. Now you're discovering that we never needed your protection. We just wanted to resolve this peacefully." Captain Sora Choi guided her hospital ship Mercy of Soul through the aftermath of the battle for the Vextar industrial world of Keth Prime. Around her, the wreckage of what had been the aliens' primary military shipyard drifted in space, destroyed by precision strikes that left the civilian infrastructure untouched. "Captain," her medical officer Repi. 6 months later, Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim walked into the Galactic Council chamber wearing the same diplomatic smile he had always worn. But everything else had changed. His seat was no longer in the back section reserved for developing civilizations. The human delegation now occupied a place at the primary council table, positioned between the representatives of the eternal hierarchy and the Void Shepherds. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations had made room for Earth. Counselor Zethos was present as well, but his position had changed dramatically. The once proud Vextar now represented what remained of their civilization after the human military campaign. Gone was the arrogant predator who had dismissed human concerns for 3 years. In his place sat a being who understood exactly how close his people had come to complete destruction. "The council will now hear the formal statement from the Vextar delegation," announced the session moderator, a crystalline being whose musical voice carried none of the dismissive tone that had once characterized discussions about human affairs. Zethos rose slowly, his movements careful and respectful. When he spoke, his voice carried none of the contempt that had once marked his every word. "The Vextar Empire formally apologizes to the human delegation and the Galactic Council for our misunderstanding of human intentions and capabilities," he said, the words clearly difficult for him to speak. "We acknowledge that our actions over the past 3 years constituted unprovoked aggression against civilian targets." Hyun-woo listened politely, his expression neutral. Around the chamber, other delegates watched the proceedings with the careful attention of beings who had learned not to underestimate the humans. Furthermore, Zethos continued, "The Vextar Empire formally requests that the Galactic Council establish the proposed human protection protocols as binding galactic law. We believe such protections are necessary for the maintenance of interstellar peace." The chamber was quiet. 6 months ago, these same delegates had laughed at human diplomatic protests. Now they were voting unanimously to establish laws protecting human civilians from the kind of attacks that had started this crisis. When the vote was complete, the moderator turned to Hyunwoo. The human delegation is invited to respond to the Vextar statement. Hyunwoo stood and walked to the central platform, moving with the same calm confidence he had always shown. But now the chamber watched him with respect rather than amusement. The government of Earth accepts the Vextar apology, he said simply. We look forward to building a peaceful relationship between our civilizations. It was a diplomatic response, carefully neutral and professional. But everyone in the chamber understood the message beneath the words. Humanity was willing to forgive, but they would never again tolerate being seen as victims. After the session ended, Hyunwoo made his way to his new office. The space was larger than his previous quarters, with a better view of the station's docking bays. Through the window, he could see the ships of Earth's new galactic patrol fleet coming and going on their regular routes. The vessels were different, now. No more small patrol frigates pretending to be barely adequate. The ships that represented humanity to the galaxy were proper warships, their capabilities obvious to any observer, not threatening, but clearly capable of defending themselves and others. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Lim's face appeared on Hyunwoo's communication screen, transmitted from his flagship as it patrolled the neutral zone between former Vextar and Hive territories. Ambassador, the Admiral said, I wanted to give you an update on our peacekeeping operations. The former combat zones are stabilizing. Both the Vextar and the Hive factions are complying with the ceasefire agreements. Any signs of renewed hostility? Hyunwoo asked. None. If anything, they seem eager to avoid any actions that might be interpreted as aggressive. The Vextar have actually started requesting human patrol ships to escort their merchant vessels through disputed territories. Hyunwoo smiled at the irony. 6 months ago, Vextar raiders had been hunting human merchants. Now they were begging for human protection. What about the integration of joint facilities, he asked. Proceeding ahead of schedule, Admiral Lim replied. Dr. Mi Young Han reports that the combined research stations are already producing interesting results. Turns out the other species have some useful technologies when they're sharing instead of shooting. On Earth, President Soo-Jin Choi reviewed the latest reports from across human space. The transition from secret military operations to open galactic diplomacy had gone more smoothly than anyone had dared hope. Madam President, Defense Minister Dong Hyun-Yu reported, the new Galactic Defense Initiative is ready for implementation. 15 species have agreed to participate in the Joint Defense Network. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. 6 months ago, those same species had been either attacking human colonies or ignoring requests for protection. Now they were begging to be included in humanity's defensive umbrella. What about the former aggressors? Soo-Jin asked. The Vextar and Hive representatives have formally requested inclusion in the defense network, Admiral Tae-ho Park added, from his position at Luna Base. They're offering to contribute resources and personnel to what they're calling the human peace. Soo-Jin considered this development. The complete reversal of galactic power dynamics still felt surreal sometimes. 3 years of careful planning and patience had transformed humanity from victims to the galaxy's primary peacekeeping force. Dr. Mi Young Han entered the Situation Room, carrying data tablets filled with technical reports. Her weapons development programs had been restructured into what was now called the Galactic Defense Initiative, focusing on protective technologies rather than offensive weapons. The latest shield generators are ready for deployment, she announced. We can now protect entire star systems from the kind of military actions that devastated the former war zones. Defensive technologies? President Choi asked with a slight smile. Completely defensive, Dr. Han replied, matching the president's tone. Of course, our definition of defensive includes the ability to neutralize any conceivable threat to protected systems, but it's purely for protection. Everyone in the room understood the implication. Human defensive technologies were indistinguishable from the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, capable of stopping any attack by eliminating the attackers. The galaxy's former aggressors had learned not to test the difference between defensive and offensive capabilities. Admiral Tae-ho Park activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic civilization. Green areas marked zones, under human protection. Blue zones indicated joint human-alien cooperative regions. The few remaining red areas showed territories that were still in dispute, but even those were being resolved through negotiation rather than military action. "The transformation is remarkable," he said. 6 months ago, we were filing diplomatic complaints that no one took seriously. Now we're mediating disputes between civilizations that used to ignore us completely. Captain Sora Choi's medical ship Mercy of Soul had been joined by similar vessels from other human worlds, creating a galactic emergency response network. Her reports showed the positive effects of humanity's new position in the galaxy. Medical facilities are being established in every major star system, she reported through the communication link. Former enemies are working together on joint research projects. The Vextar have contributed significant advances in regenerative medicine, while the Hive Collective has shared breakthrough discoveries in genetic therapy. It was a remarkable transformation. The same species that had been attacking human civilians 6 months earlier were now collaborating on projects to improve life throughout the galaxy. Dr. Sang-Woo Kim floated in his research vessel Discovery, now leading the largest xenobiological research project in galactic history. His studies of alien military doctrine had evolved into comprehensive cultural and technological exchanges. "The data is fascinating," he reported to the Earth Science Council. Once the aliens stopped viewing humans as weak targets, they became much more willing to share their knowledge. "We're learning more about galactic civilization in 6 months than we did in the previous 3 years. His research had revealed something interesting about the galaxy's former power structure. The civilizations that had been attacking human colonies had themselves been victims of a cycle of aggression and intimidation. By breaking that cycle through overwhelming force, humanity had inadvertently created space for cooperation that hadn't existed before. Back at the Galactic Council Station, Hyun-Woo received a priority communication from the Void Shepherds. The energy beings rarely communicated directly with individual ambassadors, preferring to work through established diplomatic channels. Ambassador Kim, the text-based message read, "The Shepherds wish to express gratitude for humanity's restraint during recent military operations. Your species could have chosen conquest. Instead, you chose protection. This wisdom has prevented a galactic war that would have consumed billions of lives." Hyun-Woo composed his reply carefully. "Humanity has no interest in ruling the galaxy. We simply wanted to be left in peace to build our civilization. Now that this peace is established, we're happy to help others do the same." The response came quickly. "The Shepherds believe this approach will lead to